So we're here today at Grand Designs in London, a consumer show you would think, so what's a steel company doing here? Well, Catnic is one of our businesses that makes lintels, or so most people think, but it's expanding into other areas where we are looking at modular housing and modern methods of construction. Now, delighted that host of the show, arguably, Kevin McCloud has joined us on the stand today. Kevin, one of the experts in construction, what do you know and what do you think about steel in domestic construction, urban construction especially?
Well, it has its role. I mean, I'm very interested, for example, at the moment that I've just come across some steel which is fabricated in Sweden entirely out of existing steel. So it's recycled steel, but super low carbon, using hydropower. So yeah, like all products, it is simply a thing. I mean, it has neither a good nor bad value. It's how we use it, which is the most interesting point. I make this point about what is an eco car. And the most ecological car is the one you never buy and never drive.
Yes.
And the most ecological house is the one you never turn the heating on in. It's all about human behaviour. And so steel has an important role, just as concrete does. The question is, how do we make that intelligent, and how do we make it long-lasting, and how do we make it recyclable, and how do we make it super performing? And I think what's interesting about some of the roofing materials that you're selling. Is the way that now it's possible to finish steel with bonded finishes, which give it a 50-year life, effectively, and as opposed to just a painted finish, So it's all about using tech cleverly, I think, and delivering really sustainable products using materials intelligently.
And steel, of course, as you know, is 100% recyclable, but the technology, as you say, with the insulation is moving on such that it's a low-energy material for low-energy solutions, such as this garden centre behind us, but it's recyclable. But it's also becoming, it's very aesthetically pleasing. It's a very modern material. Lots of the people who had here today have come because they've liked the look of it, of the finish. Is that something you've seen?
I used to have a welding business, so the thing I like about steel, that I struggle with wood sometimes, because they say measure twice, cut once with wood. I measure 14 times and still get it wrong. With steel, the thing I love is the fact that you can always weld a bit on. If you cut it too short, you weld a bit on, grind it off, nobody will know the difference.
Yeah. I'm guessing the guys here talking about modern methods of construction, which still on site, would say we can make this to the millimetre that's accurate before I even get to your house. I'm
ancient methods of construction at home, but I'm a big fan of prefabricated. I'm a big fan of off-site modern methods, and I'm a big fan of getting out of the muddy field and building houses in factories, because when you come to consider the environmental and carbon impact of materials, all the arguments are blown out of the water when you look at on-site construction, because for every 4 houses built, 1 goes in the skip.
Wow.
And so you can get to that by taking stuff off-site into factories. You can reduce the waste from 20% down to about 2 to 3%.
Wow.
So there's a huge saving of building intelligently in a covered building.
So that's where you think that the market's going in terms of domestic construction, is this sort of modular off-site construction, fast build?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think the major house builders on site will be starting to look now, already are, I know, starting to look at off-site fabrication. 1 or 2 of them are moving into off-site fabrication and moving away from on-site.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the way forward.
So what's the other trends in construction and domestic construction we ought to be looking out for in Catnic and Tata Steel, do you think?
It's a good question. So I drove past the Port Talbot site the other day. I'm quite clued into steel production in the UK at the moment.
You should come and visit next time.
Well, I'd love to.
Knock on the door and we'll take you round.
I've been Völklingen. I went to the World Heritage Steelworks from the Second World War at Völklingen in southern Germany 3 years ago, which is you can take a tour around, and they have left the steelworks as it closed in 1988. Unfortunately, it was used by the Germans and they used a lot of slave labour, a lot of prisoner of war labour during the Second World War. So it has a kind of tainted history.
Yeah.
But actually, because of that, it was designated a World Heritage Site, and you can take the tour, and they are leaving the thing to effectively rust and fall down now.
Wow.
So one day it won't be there.
Well, ours is very much alive.
Yours is alive and glowing.
Yeah, you'd be very welcome, because only next door in Swansea we've got the active classroom active building, which has got photovoltaic coatings in Swansea University. So if you are in the area, please do come down to the Steelworks.
I'd love to.
Come and see us, come and see Swansea University, and you can see where it all starts.
blimey, I was in the Gower 2 days ago. I should have called you beforehand, shouldn't I?
You should. You'd be very welcome any day.
Yeah, thank you.
Listen, thanks very much for joining us, Kevin. There we are. What a great insight into what's going on and the role of steel in construction. Great to be here at Grand Designs, and great to have Kevin come and join us today.